Hey, I'm Austin Peacock. Today, I want to tell you about the 4 things I love most about computer networking and the 4 things I could do without. Let's get started. So number 1, you can get all the way down to the ones and zeros. And what I mean by that is, in college, I had a circuits class for my electrical engineering degree. And I remember asking the professor after the class about how the electromagnetic waves would propagate inside the capacitors. And his answer was basically, we don't really know. It's just something that we can approximate, and that gets us where we need to go. And to me, that's just not a very satisfying answer because you can't go all the way down. In computer networking, you can. Everything is man-made. So if you want to get down to why an interface is flapping, you can look at the port client logs. If you want to go further down than that, you can look at the hardware specs. You can look at the RFCs. If you're at Arista or Cisco, you can look at the actual code. The ones and zeros don't lie, and I think that's pretty cool. Number 2, you get to live on the command line. So most jobs, you probably are not going to be able to spend enough time on the command line for it to be worth it. But in IT, you can live on the command line. You can get information much faster than you can from a GUI, and you can look cool doing it. Also, command line scripts are super fun and very rewarding to build on the spot. If you can get really good at it, there's nothing quite like building this grep, awk, sed statement that gives you exactly what you're looking for as an output. Number 3, the workload can actually be very calm. If you're in a production environment, you're not going to be able to make changes during the day. So a lot of what you're doing is monitoring the fabric and testing things in the lab and going to meetings and talking about budgeting and resources. You do get some interrupt-driven work from people that have problems with the network and you have to troubleshoot that out. But a lot of the times you're just preparing for the maintenance window on the night or weekend. So the other thing is you're not delivering a product. So there's not really crunch time like if you're a developer for a gaming company. All you have to do is worry about keeping the packets moving. And that kind of keeps the workload down a little bit. In some ways, you're like a shepherd. You have all of these sheep and you have to protect them and make sure they don't get eaten. But the majority of the time, you're kind of just sitting there watching them and ready to make a move if you need to. Number 4, the compensation. You're operating millions of dollars of networking equipment, and then it costs hundreds of thousands of dollars to keep it powered and cooled down. It's the lifeblood of a lot of companies. They have to have this infrastructure up if they want to make sales, if they want to move the planes, if they want to operate their facilities. Anytime the network's down, the company is not making money. All that to say, they want someone who's going to be able to operate it efficiently and keep the packets moving. And also, I mentioned this later, but it's not a very sexy role, so there's not a ton of people lining up to do it. And that also helps. I think it's also one of the highest paying jobs you can get straight out of college with just a bachelor's degree. I also know people that just have associate's degrees that do really well. And I even worked with 1 or 2 people that were the same age as me that didn't even have a degree of any kind that were clearing at least 6 figures. I don't know of too many other jobs that can compensate people that well. Okay, so between the compensation, a calm workload, being able to use the command line, and being able to dive all the way down into the ones and zeros, I think that computer networking has been a great career choice for me, and I would highly recommend it. But it's not all sunshine and rainbows. Let me tell you about some of the less savory aspects about computer networking. Here are 4 things that I dislike about being a network engineer. All right, number 1, IT is always viewed as an expense. Network infrastructure is there to make the company run. It's there to move the packets. It doesn't make any money. A lot of times, management really only cares about uptime and price. There isn't a real deep appreciation of all the extra effort it takes to get into automation and standardizing the design process and monitoring and logs, and that can be pretty frustrating. Number 2, it's not very prestigious. It's not a job that you can explain to your grandmother or probably even most of your friends. You're not like a doctor or a lawyer. A lot of times, you're also stuck at a desk that may be in a cube or a cube farm, and you're not really building anything that's visually impressive. When I worked at a cell phone manufacturer in college, we designed the audio for a cell phone that was in Quantum of Solace, the second James Bond movie. And I remember seeing it in theaters and seeing the phone that I worked on. And I was so proud of that, and it was such a cool feeling. There's nothing really like that in networking. Sure, you have new switches and hardware and tech, but if you're moving 400 gigs of traffic, that's going to look the exact same as moving 100 meg if you're just standing right next to a switch or a router. So you do kind of miss that feeling. But to be completely fair, if you're in networking circles and you get to come in and save a customer from some massive outage, they respect you and they know like you're very good at your craft. So there's some prestige in small circles, to be fair. Number 3, certifications can be a bit of a headache. It seems like recertification comes up super fast, and then having to go and study, learn new information, and then go sit for a test, it just gets really old after a while. And if you're outside of Cisco, you may be paying $300 or $400 to take the test. And if you're doing continuing education, it can be over $6,000 to take all the courses that you need to recertify your CCIE, for example. And then the technology is always changing. Everything moves so fast that something you learned 6 or 7 years ago may be completely irrelevant today. Like for the CCIE that I took in 2015, OTV was a major part of that, and nobody really runs that anymore, to my knowledge. So it can just be pretty frustrating to constantly be starting over from scratch, learning new stuff. Some people get really invigorated by that, and there is like new technology that's exciting, but when it's being forced upon you, sometimes it's like, man, I wish I could just sit on my laurels for a little bit longer, but that's not the space. And then number 4, the thing I definitely dislike the most about the networking space is the weekend and after hours work. It's almost a guarantee in this space. You can't make changes during the day, so you have to do it after hours or late on the weekend. And when I was in the ACI BU, we were on call every 3rd weekend, and we'd almost always get called, and you'd be on a call for 10 to 12 hours, sometimes overnight. And that can be really taxing if you have a spouse. And it's really hard to walk into work on Monday morning if you just work 25 hours on the weekend. You're basically trading off that chill time during the week for having to do a maintenance window from 8 to midnight on Fridays. And for some people, that's just not worth it. It's kind of difficult to get that work-life balance exactly right. And then on top of the weekend work, if you support core network infrastructure, you are virtually always on call to some extent. So for example, unless I'm traveling outside the country, my laptop is always with me. If I go see my parents, if I'm at a friend's beach trip, I have to have it with me just in case there's a massive outage where I need to jump on and troubleshoot. And that's just the reality of the job. Okay, so then I guess the question is really, is it worth it? To me, I think the downsides of having to work weekends and not having a very prestigious career are definitely worth the upsides of having a job that's not super chaotic and compensate you well. So hopefully, if you're someone who's thinking about a career in computer networking, this video can help you weigh the pros and cons. My name is Austin Peacock. If you want any more information or other videos about networking, head over to good-gateway.com to learn more. Thanks.